Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derek Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derek Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Derek Dombeck, and this show is all about living your vision, loving your life. And my guest today is Zachary Beach. We're going to dive into this a little further, but he's in a family-owned business that is all about creative deal structuring, all about getting people out of their W-2s and into full-time business ownership. And I really look forward to this. I know his father-in-law, and this is the first time that Zachary and I are going to be able to chat about his father-in-law, Chris, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So Zach, if you wouldn't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and let's get going.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm excited to do the show with you. So I'm Zachary Beach, CEO of Smart Real Estate Coach, but also, own and partner in a couple other businesses all around, buying and selling real estate, specifically in the creative financing space, but certainly have structured some other deals as well. I would say my story really starts when we talk about entrepreneurship. About 10 and a half years ago, even though I struck my first entrepreneurial type journey when I was very young. I used to live on a golf course, not like a super nice golf course, but a golf course. And what I used to do is I used to go in the tall grass, grab golf balls, and then sell them 3 for $1 on like the 7th tee. Boy, was I way off. Those golfers were making out on a ton of money there. I mean, if you go golfing nowadays, buy 3 golf balls for $20. My profit margins definitely need to increase. It certainly would nowadays. But that was where I got that entrepreneurial bug. But throughout the rest of my younger years, I was a bit lost. I certainly was a poor kid growing up in a rich town. So I always had that chip on my shoulder, and that kind of carried through the rest of my life. As the only reason I went to college is because everybody told me I couldn't. So I went there with zero real direction. I just went to go. So when I got out of college, I just did, what the natural person would do that just spent 4 years on a degree. As I became a bartender, started bartending, then became a personal trainer. And then I started getting really burnt out. As you can imagine, I was spending late nights at the bar and early mornings at the gym. I really didn't feel as I was going anywhere. So what I did was I approached my father-in-law, Chris, who you mentioned earlier, who's one of my business partners. And I know that he just got crushed in 2008. He was revamping his business, and he was now doing this thing called creative financing. So I knew that he was eventually going to need some support. So I approached him and said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than what I'm doing here today. So I added on to that. I started cold calling, doing all the sexy things when it comes to real estate investing. It took me about 6 months to get my first deal, and then, kind of burned the ships and started becoming a full-time real estate investor at that point in time, and approaching the 10th year right now. When this year closes out, I'll be in this business for 10 years, and certainly has been a really good journey so far.
Well, there's lots of questions that I have after that brief introduction from you. The first one is cold calling. It's not something that most people are comfortable doing. Was it something you had experience in, or did you just dive in?
No, I was just like everybody else. And still to this day, I'll still do some cold calling for sure, because I believe it's one of the number one ways to generate deals right away. I mean, get a list, make phone calls, start moving people through a pipeline. You don't have to wait for direct mail to go out or people to call you back. You can start taking action immediately. And that's certainly something that we train all of our community members to do, because you can start utilizing that skill set and then building on that skill set right away as well, which is communication, and really getting honed in on your craft when it comes to creative deal structuring or creative financing or buying and selling on terms. We'll use those all interchangeably throughout today as well. So definitely not something I was comfortable with. Had no cold calling experience, but I was a bartender, so I figured I could talk to everybody at any point in time about anything. But I cut my teeth just like everybody else coming up in real estate investing, and certainly took me quite a few months in order to get really comfortable. And as you can imagine, I mean, I had real estate, or my father-in-law Chris, who had at that time 20-something years of experience in real estate, and then my brother-in-law Nick, who was a realtor for 8 years at that point in time, and then joined the family business as well. We had both of those guys in the office, and it still took me 6 months to get my first deal. So, I came from zero real estate experience. So certainly something that I had to learn and get over and then master.
Well, and I think that speaks volumes to the the ability you have to stick it out, because there's so many people that expect the results to happen in a few days or a couple of weeks. And I think a lot of that is coming from lack of education or the wrong education. YouTube University is rampant out there. So
yeah, I mean, unrealistic expectations, right? I mean, that's one of the number one diseases that all brand new real estate investors face, and is probably one of the biggest dream killers there are. Because it's really easy, and I watch the channels too, but it's really easy to go on Netflix now and see like buy and selling, Los Angeles and New York, and then also going to HDTV. And what you're seeing, it's still like another type of social media, because what you're seeing is the people's highlight reel. What we don't see is the 10 years, the 20 years it took them to get into that position, where now they can close deals more easily, or they have the network to generate more deals on a consistent basis, or they have the skill set to navigate what may seem on TV, trivial. But when you're first getting started, I mean, those things could be some major bumps in the road that you have to face. And certainly from a mindset perspective, it could be quite challenging. So, yeah, I think that is a major piece that anytime anybody joins our community, we talk about it. We say, look, what's your goals? Where are your current skill sets? How much time do you have available to dedicate to this business? And then, and how much resources do you have in order to add to this business? Because it's either going to take more of your time or more of your money when it comes to real estate investment, period. So really just navigating those different factors and then coming up with a realistic and strategic game plan to ensure that people reach their goals. So really, honing in on that expectation is certainly really big at the beginning of anybody's journey.
Yeah, and I would say the other part that is great when you have the right coach or the right education as well is,
sure,
we can all fill time, instead of picking up that call or that phone and actually making those cold calls. Well, we have to perfect our list, and then we have to triple skip trace it, because why would we want to call 6 phone numbers when we might be able to narrow it down to 2? And, I see people that are just killing time with the excuse of not getting on there and making the calls or reaching out.
Oh yeah, that's creative procrastination, right? Everything has to be lined up until we get it right, and that's just really fear, right? At the end of the day, that's just, we have a bit of fear that's causing us to delay, and then unfortunately, the longer we delay, the harder it is to do, right? So anytime I tell somebody, if you haven't done phone outreach, because I don't even want to call it cold calling sometimes, because if you have a list of expired listings, or you have a list of for sale by owners, like this for sale by owners, that's not a cold list. Like they're expecting people to call them to buy their house. But so if you're going to do that, I always tell people to prospect first thing in the morning, because as time grows, fear grows, which means it's unlikely you're actually going to do it at the end of the day, especially when your willpower's gone, because that drains like a battery throughout your day. And then if you've worked all day and then all of a sudden now you have no energy, it's unlikely you're going to take that action, especially if it's at the beginning of your real estate business career, because it takes a lot of concentration, takes a lot of bravery at the beginning in order to get yourself comfortable in order to make those calls.
Well, and I love the momentum builder that if your first couple of calls early in the morning are going well, Now you're amped up. Now you want to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
But if you have a great call at 7 o'clock at night and it's now 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it's not time to call people anymore. So you lose that momentum and you got to start all over the next day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Plus, if you're making phone calls in the morning, and look, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, there's no way I can make phone calls in the morning, I'm not going to do cold calling, then that's not the excuse. But if you can make some time in the morning, maybe on your drive to work, a lot of people commute and your drive to work, or if now you're working remotely and you don't have to check into work now till later, you will probably have an hour in the morning where you can make these calls. Because then what happens is if people don't answer the phone at the beginning of the day, they'll call you at lunchtime or they'll call you at night. And now you actually have a prospect that has raised their hand that said, yeah, I'm actually interested in talking to you right away. So now at least they've built some forward momentum. Now, do we know if they're going to be a good lead or a good prospect or not? No, but at least we know that they're motivated enough to call you back, which is a great sign. Good start. Then go ahead and so if you're doing that in the morning, you're always going to have more leads throughout the day as they start calling in. So that's where I would start.
Definitely. So I guess let's get your definition of what is buying real estate on creative financing.
Yeah, I mean, the simple definition that we always go based on is we're buying real estate without going to banks and without personally guaranteeing debt. Now, whether you're choosing to, which we tend to not teach people, especially at the beginning, is to raise private money so we can add in without putting large down payments down as well to that. But whether you're doing private money or you're doing no money, then you either way are not going to be going to banks, and you're not going to sign personally on any of the debt in which you're buying, which puts you in a position now to really maximize this market, but more importantly, protect your downside. As I was mentioning earlier, my father-in-law got crushed in 2008, so he had all the banks, reaching out to him. So as you can imagine, some of this is directly tied to that, because if another 2008 were to happen or another challenging time were to happen, all the hundreds of deals that we have done, nobody's ever going to have our personal guarantee on that debt. So they're never going to come after us, which means that we can do hundreds or thousands of deals every single year and really be able to sleep, with our head at night, because we're not going to have any banks knocking at our door.
Well, and Chris and I have a very similar background as it pertains to 2007, 8, and 9, which we've talked about in the past. And that's the same reason that I love dealing, with people, not institutions.
Yeah.
I haven't used a bank I was trying to figure it out. It's 13 or 14 years for any investment properties at this point. And I love the fact that you're out there helping people by structuring deals creatively and not using banks. Like, I do raise a ton of private money. I use a lot of private money for my deals, but I also do a lot of sub-twos and seller carrybacks, things of that nature, where we can put more money in somebody's pocket than if they just took that low cash offer from a wholesaler.
Oh yeah, 100%. I always tell people, like, if you had a glass of water with ice in it, I mean, the ice is all the other real estate niches, and the creative financing is the water. It's every other solution can be created with, we'll use creative financing, but that could mean so many different things, especially in today's world where I honestly believe it's overused at this point in time. But at the end of the day, what we're really trying to say is, if you can't do the traditional route or choose not to do the traditional route, then these strategies are a good opportunity for almost everyone. Because if we're looking at what we're doing in the current market, right? The current market, we're in a position where actually the amount of sellers and buyers that we tend to service are actually growing at the exact same time. Because what's happening is, right, as the interest rates skyrocketed, so now you have sellers that have unrealistic expectations. They still think their house is worth X, so then they sit on the market longer. Or you're seeing things where they're behind on payments and they need debt relief because of taxes have rose 4 times since they've owned the property, or they bought the property by an interest rate, not by a purchase price. There's not a lot of equity in the deal anymore. So that's just constantly increasing the amount of sellers that we work with. And then at the exact same time, all of the traditional buyers out there that can actually qualify for loan at 7% right now are very small, especially at a specific price point. So now we have both buyers and sellers increasing. So the amount of deals that have to happen via traditional finance or via creative financing are drastically increasing. So now what we really need, which is I think the most important thing right now, is we really need well-educated people that understand how to put these deals together, because this could go one way or the other. The popularity of creative financing because of the need of the market could be absolutely amazing. I mean, we could service so many clients out there, so many prospects. We could help buy so many properties or sell so many houses on rent to own to people that can't qualify. But it could, on the complete flip side, is that you could have lots of these people out there now, investors that don't know how to do this, and put the market in a very bad place because they're not actively putting these creative financing deals together properly, which means that you're going to have fallout in the future. I mean, that's happened in the state of Texas, right? You can't do sandwich leases in the state of Texas anymore because of this exact same thing. So I really encourage people, if this is a major, if you believe this is a niche you want to be a part of, which in my opinion, this is like the foundation and then everything else comes after it. This is something you want to be a part of. Just make sure that you're really following or getting educated by the right people for the right things, because every single deal in which we do, because it's labeled creative, has so many different moving pieces. And I don't say that to tell people to not do this. All I'm saying is just make sure that you know and you're following or working with somebody that understands how to put those moving pieces together until you officially know how to kind of see how they all put together as well.
Yeah, and there's nothing new in real estate for the most part, right? Yeah. There's some new laws, there's some new gimmicks, but purchasing somebody's property sub 2 has been around forever. Seller financing's been around forever. The challenge that it drives me crazy because, and I won't name names, but there's some larger outfits out there that are teaching sub 2 and they're wholesaling sub 2 deals.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of that. And I'd like your opinion on it, because when I build that relationship with a seller and I'm the one that's saying, I will make sure that your payments are taken care of.
Yeah.
Then I turn around, I wholesale that to you, and you've never met the seller, they've never met you. I feel like there's a fiduciary responsibility we have to do what we said we were going to do. But it's sexy for some of these other educators to sell this product and say, yep, you just go put it under contract and wholesale it to somebody else, and you walk away, you made a fat profit. How do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings, because and here's why. One, I'm buying some of these wholesale deals, or these what they call them, like entry fees, sub 2 deals. I'm buying some of them. So from I'll hit kind of positive and negative, right? So positive is good real estate investors. I'm going to put myself underneath that. Me, you. We get to eliminate a lot of the time it would take for us to build a relationship, to spend the time of, sourcing the deal, and then be able to step into a deal that we know is really helping out the seller. I know I can help out more buyers more quickly, and I also know I can create more profits for my business in a short period of time. So if the end buyer is a educated, a seasoned real estate investor that knows how to handle, manage, communicate with sellers, like knows the creative financing space, great opportunity. I think can be really impactful, because now you have a massive amount of people out there that know how to source deals and put them under agreement for seasoned investors that know how to actually run the deal. Because if somebody's typically wholesaling a creative deal, that means that they don't actually know how to run the creative deal. I'll make that assumption. Some people will do, they'll have a certain portion of, they just want to wholesale, and a certain portion they want to keep. So totally get that. But if we can get them to seasoned investors that can really help out these sellers and really impactful, good. I could tell you the opposite. I went to go buy one of these deals, and me and the seller were unable to put together a good relationship. And unfortunately, the wholesaler was not very good at communicating this particular process. And he also didn't do really well with me either. So we actually went to go close the sub two, and an attorney stepped involved. And because the seller wasn't educated enough and the attorney wasn't educated enough, that the deal, like, it killed the deal. And I felt really bad because I couldn't keep that deal going because the sellers needed us to do that deal. Like, there wasn't big alternatives for them. But unfortunately, then they had an attorney get in their ear and say, like, this isn't, because he had no idea what sub twos were. Right. So that's the negative side, is that somebody like myself that then goes and buys that deal, or anybody out there that goes and buys a deal, there's some negative consequences if you do not build a relationship with that seller. So with that being said, that was one of the first ones I went to go purchase. I changed it now, which means that from here on out, if somebody is going to sell me that deal, I say I need a meeting with the seller. And then typically I'm getting them to re-sign my purchase and sale agreement directly with me. And then we just have an assignment fee on the side, assignment agreement on the side with the wholesaler. So now I'm meeting with the seller like 30 days before we're actually going to close. I get to re-educate them. That way I know that they're going to be in a good spot. So still going to take more effort, but at least we're able to source more deals more quickly. So that's kind of the positives and negatives from it. Do I believe that with the amount of that's going on right now? Yeah, I believe that there's probably a lot of misinformation that the third party person may be giving in some circumstances, which then is going to make the end buyer, the actual investor, liable, because they're the ones that have to deal with the seller for the next X amount of years. So I think there's definitely going to be a bridge of information that needs to be added in there, or these deals will not be successful.
Well, and you added the part that I love, is that you're mandatorily saying, I need to have this meeting with the seller. That changes a lot of the scenario versus a brand new person just getting a contract, throwing it out there on social media or wherever they're marketing, most of the time incorrectly and breaking wholesale laws. But so yeah, I love what you said and what you're doing. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because now you have built that rapport and that relationship with the actual person who is signed and guaranteed that deed of trust or that mortgage. So
yeah, because I made the mistake, right? Ask me how I know. The first one I did, I made that mistake, and I didn't go as thorough because I was being, I guess, I thought, based upon my conversation with the person that was assigning the contract to me, that they knew creative financing. But what I'm starting to realize is that most people don't necessarily know the ins and outs or have the experience when it comes to these deals, but they are really good at putting properties under agreement. So I think for us as the seasoned investors, and if you're listening to this, you are a seasoned investor, there is a really good opportunity for you to help more people in a shorter time frame if you're lining yourself with the right people that can put properties under agreement more quickly. So I think there's a really cool synergistic thing that can happen there. But also you just need to make sure that at the end of the day, if you're the one buying it, to make sure you still have built that rapport with the seller, because this is a trust business. And really it's a people business. So to really build that's a major opportunity.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself. You're spot on. So you guys are, at Smart Real Estate Coach, you're really adamant about trying to get the W-2 employees to become business owners. So many W-2 employees are saying, I don't have time. Walk us through, what does that look like when somebody approaches you and says, hey, Zachary, I want to get into real estate. I want to do creative deals, but I work 50 hours a week.
I have kids, I got family, I have, extracurricular activities. I mean, these are the things I hear on a daily basis. The reality, though, is if you really have a goal to eventually become a business owner, or for whatever reason, right? Because most people that join in my opinion, any coaching community, anything like that, to build a business, do real estate deals, whatever that may be, what I've found is that they're usually running away from something, right? That's where it usually starts. Their motivation is to leave their job, right? They're like trying to get away from something. It's typically not, and it's not that for everyone, but it's typically not, I just want to make more money on the side to build my retirement. Now, that may be for some, but most it's I'm running away from something. I'm trying to accumulate enough where I can then leave my W-2. And then eventually, as they build the business, then it starts to become, I want to get to financial freedom. So now they're trying to get to a place instead of running away from it. So what I always tell anybody that's serious is that today you're going to have to make more sacrifices with your time in order to have more time in the future. Let me give you an example. So we had a really amazing student of ours and became a coach, and he's actually has an awesome podcast now. He's doing a lot of great things. When he approached me, he was looking to get involved in creative financing because he was traveling on a plane every other week for 3 to 5 days. He used to sell elevators. He's an amazing person. So he was trying to get more time with his child because his child was growing up and he was missing out on his child's life. So when him and I had a conversation, he was looking to join our community. I said, okay, so I just want you to be aware of that you're going to have to sacrifice more time today in order to get more time in the future. So, and nowadays I watch his Instagram, I watch his social media. He's with his kid all the time. I think he's like at every single one of his baseball games, which was one of his goals. But he had to make that sacrifice. So instead, and I want to say sacrifice in the terms of Bob Proctor says it well. It's like sacrifice really means to give up of something lesser to gain something better. A lot of this just comes down to prioritization because we all have the same amount of time. Yet some of us prioritize to do certain activities that deliver a better result. So for that person's example, his name is Brian. For his example, we said, how often are you in the airport lounge? Okay, I'm in there 2 to 4 hours throughout a trip. Okay, and then how often are you sitting at your hotel room instead of at work? There for 2 hours every single night. It's great. You got plenty of time. When you're in the airport, you're going to be making your phone calls, working your business. When you're not in your W-2, you're not with your family anyways. You're going to be working your business in your hotel. And he was able to build that business basically throughout that process. Give you another example. Another gentleman who ended up retiring. He's actually one of our coaches now. He was driving an hour to work every day. He was in commodity sales in Fresno, California. We said, all right, you have to drive an hour to work and an hour back home. He said, yep. And he said, also, my brother's in the car with me. So I said, great. Can your brother drive while you get on the phone and make phone calls while you're driving an hour to work and an hour home? They said, yeah. So he built this business 2 hours a day during 6 days a week while he was at work. So everybody has the time. It's just, can we prioritize the time to put in the actual actions that will deliver the results that we want? And if not, can we find the time? Like, there's usually something you have to give up in order to gain, right? The sacrifice. So if you're somebody that likes to Netflix and chill on the weekends, then you may have to give that up if you want a better life at the end of the day. So what I'll do is, or my team will do is, we'll look through, okay, like, what are you doing? And then what can we eliminate or sacrifice for at least the short term so we have the long-term gains? Yeah, I guess I'll digress that on my rant.
Well, you ever get ready to go on a vacation and the day before you have a week's worth of things that need to get done and somehow you get it all done?
Yep.
But then yeah, right. It's all about prioritizing 100%. So, well, I want to segue a little bit. You're in a family business. And you married into the family, so you're not blood. And I do believe that's a little different dynamic as well.
It certainly is.
I've had a former partnership that was, great partnership. We had some of his family working for us. There was, there's always some drama. So what's the pros and cons of a family-owned business?
Yeah, this is gonna be a lot to unpack. There's a lot of different dynamics that come into play, right? When it comes to being in a family business, because it's not only a business, but you also have personal relationships that are going on. So this could be for whether you have a family business or even just like a close personal friend as your partner. Because at the end of the day, you never want to be a casualty that you see all the time in either movies or history or stories or whatever that may be, where the family doesn't talk because they were in a business and then they had money issues, because that's usually the main thing. It's either money issues or communication issues that then lead to you having ill feelings. So that's something that you have to constantly be aware of, first and foremost. So setting boundaries is a huge thing. When we originally started this business, or where we really all decided, hey, we're going to be serious, we said, let's not talk about business outside of the office unless it's positive. So I don't want to hear, nobody wants to hear you complaining about the employee or the bad seller or the bad buyer or whatever that may be. They just keep that in the office, because we're going to have to deal with that 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, whatever that may be, 5-6 days a week. If you want to talk about anything positive, then fantastic. That's awesome. Because when we talk about the positive side of working with family, it's everybody wins, and you can raise up your entire family with one company or with one real estate transaction. So talking about positive things are awesome. Talking about negative things is certainly the challenge. Now, when business is going really well, it's really easy. But when business is challenging, it can be very hard, because you're still, again, working with people in which you know, like, respect, love, but you have to separate, especially being a partner and also being an employee, right? Because that's kind of what we all play. We play partner, where we're owners, and then we also are employees, because we also have to work in the day-to-day. So trying to make and create that clear separation is important, because we also need to have really hard conversations, just like if it was an employee that was making a mistake. And then as you're growing and scaling the business, it could also be even more challenging, because you're trying to figure out where your skill set is, where your partner's skill sets are, where the family is, who you need to bring in, who you need to hire. And then you also, as you scale and grow, it's no longer a family business anymore. Like, for example, me and my brother-in-law used to like full out yell at each other during meetings. That was just how we communicate. It wasn't like we would leave the office and we'd be fine. But as soon as we started hiring more people, I remember having a conversation, me, Chris, and Nick. So my brother-in-law's Nick and my father-in-law's Chris. We said, like, we can't do this anymore, because like that's not professional anymore. We're like growing and scaling. People can't assume that. So then you have to constantly make those adjustments on even how you behave with your family, how you communicate. So it can certainly be, and I'm probably just going a little bit of a tangent, but it can be very positive and it can be very challenging at the same time. But as long as everybody's on the same path, which is something you have to constantly check in with, because when you start a partnership, everybody's happy, going through goals. But when after you've been in a partnership for almost 10 years, people's lives change, for sure. And then when age difference, like my partner and father-in-law, he's in his late 50s now. I'm in my early 30s. Our lives are completely different. And, where we see ourselves in 10 years, let alone 2 years, is a significant probably difference. Good, bad, or indifferent. So having that open dialogue and communication about where you're steering the company is also rather important, and having that set up. But definitely more positives than negatives, assuming you like your family.
Yeah, and it's something that not a lot of people talk about. And the partnership side of things, like I just exited a 10-year business partnership, the first of this year. And it was amicable. Both of us agreed it was time to go our separate ways, and we still love each other. It's great. But we had the hard conversations. We had buy-sell agreements in place. All of these things that most people enter into partnerships almost like a one-night stand instead of a marriage, right?
Yeah.
They just jump in bed together, and magically all of a sudden, a couple of years goes by, you own hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of assets together. And what I've seen break up most partnerships, money is one of them, but it's the relationship with maybe the spouse or a child or whatever that is not really involved in the business, but you know damn well their opinion matters.
Yeah.
And that has definitely happened in my life. So, with you guys, not to dig into the family side of specifically, but you said it right. Chris is that much older than you. At some point, he's going to want to probably slow down or retire. Although he's an entrepreneur like all of us, he's never going to probably slow down or retire. But what does that look like? Is there a point in time where there's a buyout or a retirement plan?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's what's important to have those conversations. No transition or anything just yet, but when you're having those conversations, at the end of the day, we both have our individual goals and what we're trying to accomplish. And, a business for anybody should be like a conduit, or a vessel to help you reach your goals. You shouldn't be putting all of your time and effort to help the business reach their goals. The business is supposed to be created for you to reach your goals, right? Whether that be financial goals or whether that be, trophies or stats or whatever that may be, or even time freedom. All those accolades is where I was going, or time freedom. So the business is going to generate that. So as long as the business can evolve to still support multiple partners in their trip to where they're trying to go, then it's always sustainable. But once it doesn't, right, that's where the partnership breaks up, because somebody says, well, this is no longer supporting my goals. This is no longer supporting my journey. And then the other one says, all right, well, can this business still support my journey? And if so, that's where you usually get the buyout. If it doesn't, that's when you usually get the sell. Now it's like, okay, well, we've done a lot. This has been great. The business no longer supporting either one of us, or all three of us, or all five of us, whoever that may be. Now let's go ahead and sell. And that way we can take our earnings of everything we invested and go on to the next thing. Because like you were talking about, like 10 years in any business is a long time. Considering most businesses fail within the first, like 18 to 2 years, 10 years is a long time to be in a specific business trying to reach a specific goal with a group of specific people. It's just a long time. So just things evolve. And I think that's what's the important part of all this. And, to be my main point is everybody's going to evolve. So if you are planning to work with family, again, it can be very rewarding, but you also, if anything, you probably have to be more open, more blunt, more, honest throughout the conversations than you probably would with your family, because of all these additional conversations or all these intertwined things that come with business. I'll hit on one more point. And I was having a really good conversation with a good group of friends, and we all got together. We're all entrepreneurs, and we all got together. And one key point that got brought up was that business is a spiritual journey, not a physical journey. Now, before some of you, close your ears because you're not, spiritual, religious, anything like that. What I'm not hitting on that. What I'm sharing is that the evolution of who you are and who you need to become in order to reach your goals is so significant that it's in business, it is like that microcosm of what you have to go through. It's like, that's why we all like sport, right? It's like, if you watch a sport, you're watching somebody evolve in order to reach their goal right in front of you. And that's what happens through business. So as you're being compressed through all those goals and all those challenges and friction, all that, you're molding into somebody different. Now you got to constantly have that conversation with your partners and your family, because everybody's going to be slightly molded different, especially through all those experiences.
Absolutely. Man, there's so much stuff. We could keep talking for hours. I know that for a fact, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. What's the one question that I should have asked you that I didn't?
That's good. We do that on our podcast too. Yeah, I don't know. This has been a completely different path of what I was expecting to jump on this podcast, and that's why I just love just letting things roll. Yeah, I would say if anybody's out there and they're trying to get involved in real estate investing, the number one question would always be, all right, is real estate investing, what's going to actually help me reach my specific end goals. Because there's a million different ways to become a millionaire. Although, most are made through real estate. There's a million different ways in order to, leave your W-2 job or to add additional income streams. Real estate investing can be very easy once you know it, and can be very simple once you know it. But it is all the hard work that's gonna help get you there. So I would ask more instead of you asking me, I ask the audience, is real estate the vehicle that you believe that's going to get you there, and is what you want to put your time and effort and sacrifice for? Because it can be super rewarding and very exciting. But also, there's going to be some days you wake up and maybe wish you weren't in real estate. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Zachary, what's the best way for people to follow you, find you, and hunt you down if they need you?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, because we didn't go super deep into creative financing and sub-twos and lease options and owner financing. Maybe we could do that with Chris when you have him on the podcast. Go grab your book, go start diving in, add this to your current business model, or start investing in real estate from scratch like I did with these models. And then also, if you want to find us on social, at Smart Real Estate Coach for Instagram, Smart Real Estate Coach /YouTube for YouTube, or if you want to follow me personally, it's at Zachary Beach Official.
And we'll have all that in the show notes as well. So, Zachary, man, I appreciate you giving us your time and your candor when it comes to the questions that you didn't know I was going to hit you with today.
That was good. I appreciate you having me on, Derek.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, please spread the Generations of Wealth message. Get this out there into your friends. Give us 5-star ratings anywhere you're listening. If you're looking for a network, the REI Circle of Trust, go to reicot.com, and we'll see you on the next show. Go out there, live your vision, love your life.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth-building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.